I'm not doing this for my health. I'm not doing it for my wealth. I'm doing it because I obviously believe that we can be successful. And the reason you drop out of the race is the reason every candidate for president drops out of the race. Anybody know what that reason is? You run out of money. Yeah. When you run out of money, then you can't keep going. Unless you're Mitt Romney, and then you don't worry about your money. But we're going to keep going as long as we can continue to raise the funds that are necessary to keep our operation going. And right now, we've been successful in doing so. And we're seeing. Look, if I didn't believe we were seeing solid progress, and that this race was a wide open race, I think the fact that you've seen every new candidate on the block, if you will, every flavor of the month, as some people call them, vault to the top of the polls, tells you that there's not a whole strong level of commitment to presidential candidates right now. And so this is a wide open field. People love Rick Perry. How many can tell me any position Rick Perry holds? Nobody knows. So of course we love him because he's whoever we think he is. And the press is talking all about them. So I'm not worried about Rick Perry's going to have to be in 3 debates in the next 3 weeks. And people will begin to understand, why he had a primary challenge, a couple of years ago in Texas, and why he refused to debate his Democratic opponent in Texas. So you're going to see all. And look, I know you might find this hard to believe, but all the presidential candidates have warts, including me. Yes, it's true, I do, and we all do. But that's how this process needs to be weeded out, and I think that over time we're going to do very, very well. Yes. Well, I don't find it there because I'm not an activist and looks at the Constitution as a way to justify my own personal beliefs and imposing them on the rest of society. I don't think that's what the Constitution was there for. The Constitution was there to say what it said, not to say what future generations wanted to say. From the standpoint of why I don't support a change in the marriage laws, because marriage is, and I know I get criticized for saying, but it's true. Marriage is what marriage is. Marriage existed before government, before the Constitution, before Western civilization. Marriage has always been predominantly, overwhelmingly so, reflected in nature as such, the union of one man and one woman. It's reflected in nature. It's reflected in human society from the very beginning of time. And so to say, that marriage is something else, I said this the other day and I got criticized for it, but I happened to be at a diner and I picked up a napkin. And I said, this is a napkin. You can call this a projector, but that doesn't make this napkin a projector. Because it has certain qualities, and it is metaphysically something that it is. And to call it something else, to ascribe this definition to something that it isn't, you can say that, but it doesn't make it that. You can say, well, it's equal protection. Equal protection for what? Marriage is a privilege given out by government that gives government benefits to people who are recognized by the government. It's not a right. There's the right to get married. It's a privilege that the government grants. They get benefits. Why? Why does government grant these benefits? Because it has an innate benefit to society. We recognize marriage as government because we want to encourage it. We want to secure it because it has a useful purpose to society. What is that purpose? To bond men and women together as nature designed them to be, in a bond for the purposes of procreation and raising children, and being there to love and support each other as they were meant to be by nature and nature's God. And so it is a completely natural and right institution. And government recognized that. They recognized the value that having men and women married, raising children, is the best possible place for children to be raised. You want to look at the social science on that? Don't even try if you disagree with me. Because you will be overwhelmed by the social science that tells that men and women together in marriage provide by far, by every measure, the best habitat for children to be raised. Whether it's health, education, jobs, whatever the case may be. The social science is overwhelming that marriage is the best place. It is also the best place for men and women to be. It is the healthiest relationship, and it's healthy for society. So government should be all about promoting what is good for society, not promoting relationships that may be beneficial relationships in some way. My relationship with my aunt is a very nice relationship, but we're not going to say we're married and give us special privileges because I love my aunt. Or because you happen to be friends with this guy, just because you're friends, we're not going to create it's a good relationship. It's beneficial to society that you have friends, but we're not going to elevate it. Why? Because marriage is unique. And when we say it's not unique, then we destroy it. We reduce its significance and value, and we get less of it. And we see that in every civilization that has gone in that direction. Yes? Well, my belief system has been around for a couple thousand years. And, I would say to those who want to reconstruct a new belief system, that they have the burden of proof. I mean, I find this really remarkable. I wrote this in my book. If you want to build a bridge over a swamp, the federal government requires you to file legions of reports about the environmental impact of this bridge that you're putting on a swamp. If you want to completely rewrite the foundational glue that holds the family together, the moral ecology of this country, and if you want to rewrite that and refashion it because you now have an idea that it should be different, the folks who argue for what this gentleman is arguing for have made no argument statistically, otherwise, reason or otherwise. They put the argument on you saying, well, you're wrong, prove to me why we shouldn't change, why we should stay with the way you look at marriage. And that is completely backwards. The burden is not on me to maintain what is. The burden is on you to show why what you're doing would have beneficial impacts to every member of society. Right? That's why we pass laws. Because they have beneficial impact to society. Is it beneficial to change the marriage laws and then say to 2-year-olds that we're going to teach you about gay sex in 2nd grade? Is it beneficial?
Straight sex in 2nd grade?
But no, that's what's happening in some, that they're actually teaching both now. Okay? Is it beneficial? Well, because it wasn't taught, either wasn't taught before, now both is taught. Because this is now being inculcated. Is it beneficial to say to someone, who is a Catholic church that's running an adoption agency, that if you don't do what the state tells you to do, that's inconsistent with your values and beliefs, that you cannot be in the adoption business anymore? I got called on, the interview was yesterday, but it's going to be shown tomorrow night on CNN. I had Piers Morgan call me a bigot because I believe what the Catholic Church teaches with respect to homosexuality. I'm a bigot. So now I'm a bigot because I believe what the Bible teaches. Now what 2,000 years of teaching and moral theology is now bigoted. And of course we don't elect bigots to office. We don't give them professional licenses. We don't give them preferential tax treatment. If you're a preacher and you preach bigoted things, you think you're going to be allowed to have a 501c3 as a church? Of course not. No, this has profound consequence to the entire ecology, moral ecology of America. It will undermine the family. It will destroy faith in America. And does anybody go out there and make the argument as to why this is a good thing? Because it will happen. Make the argument why this is right. I don't hear those arguments.
They're there. There are plenty of
I don't hear them make
it. They're there.
What's the social science?
I'm not going to attempt to say that there's this one and this one and this one, but it is extremely unfair to you for you to say that there are no social science reports that suggest that children are okay in a same-sex relationship. there are plenty of statistical studies that
All
show
I-
that they are just as happy, as successful as everything else, as long as they have two parents supporting them.
I
The
see.
American
And so you,
Psychological
see, well, the
Association.
American Psychological Association.
But it's, I mean, you're a lawyer. I mean, you can introduce that at trial,
Okay,
absolutely.
well, the American.
The American Psychological Association has enumerated.
I understand that.
1974.
I understand.
That gay marriage does not.
I understand that.
prohibit
The American Psychological Association is made up of people who agree with the American Psychological Association, just like the AMA is made up
People
of.
who are
Excuse me,
educated
there are
psychiatrists.
a lot of psychologists don't belong to the American Psychological Association. A lot of doctors don't belong to the American Medical Association. All these associations prove is that they have a point of view, and the people who join them,
You just
they
asked
agree with
for
that point of
evidence,
view.
you just got evidence,
That's
and
not
you tried to
evidence.
step on it.
An organization supporting a position is not evidence of benefit to
Are
society.
you a psychiatrist? Are
My
you a
dad
medical
was.
doctor?
My dad was.
Are you a medical doctor?
I'm not, but that's not the point, lawyer. Okay, let's be a lawyer here.
Well,
Because a
no,
group
we're
of
gonna be
people.
a lawyer.
Time
We need
out.
to talk
No,
about
no,
the
time out.
Constitution, which you clearly
Time
have
out.
never read.
Time out.
Let's talk about
Time
the
out.
fugitive
I've given
slave
you a
clause,
chance.
but
I've
don't
given you
have
mine.
freedom of
Time out.
Fugitive slave clause,
Okay.
Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
Read
Time
the
out.
first.
Time out.
You wanna
The
know?
American Psychological Association is not proof of anything. Okay? It's not proof of it. It's proof that a group of people agree with you. That's all it's proof of. Okay? Should you reflect your belief systems in the public policy pronouncements that you make?
I wasn't sure, that's why I was asking here.
Okay. So let's go back to our founders. Some people have problems with them. I don't. Madison, who was the architect of the Constitution, called the First Amendment and the perfect remedy. Because really what the Constitution is a document that orders society so we can all get along. I mean, I remember growing up in Pittsburgh. Any Pittsburghers here? Right? I grew up in the Pittsburgh area. I actually grew up in Butler. But I grew up in the Pittsburgh area, and in the town of Butler, there was a Serbian community and there was a Croatian community. And when I was growing up as a kid, I knew Serbs and I knew Croatians. I never knew until really I got involved in politics and foreign policy and things like that, much later in life. I never knew that there was a conflict between Serbs and Croatians. Because the Serbs and Croatians in Butler got along. I mean, they were friends. There was no animosity. There was no issues. I never knew of anything. It was never talked about. It was just they were part of the neighborhood. Why does that happen? That when they live in Serbia and Croatia, they hate each other and try to kill each other, but when they come to America, they don't. Madison called it the perfect remedy. And the perfect remedy is everybody's in. Everybody can come to the public square. The most religious, the most secular. They're all allowed in. And you all can trumpet your point of view. You can passionately argue for it. You can try to impose your values. The idea that people of faith impose their value and secular people don't is a lie. There's no absence of values. Everybody has values. Everybody has a conscience that's formed by something. If it's formed by faith, those in the secular world say it's invalid. Got to keep it out. Oh, it's formed by faith. Who are you trying to impose your faith? Well, what's your conscience formed by? And why is that valid and mine's not? It's the great. So it's one of the great lies of the left. That people bring their faith into the public square. No, they don't. They bring their conscience into the public square that's formed by faith. As you do. It's formed by non-faith. It's just as much of a faith. It's just not a faith in God. So the answer is, yes, I will bring my faith in the public square, but I will also bring my reason. Because I believe in faith and reason. I believe if your faith is true and your reason is right, you come to the same place. Right? And so I have an obligation to people of faith and to people of no faith as a public servant. And I have an obligation to lay out my arguments. My arguments against gay marriage, I don't think I mentioned the word faith at all. I mentioned reason. There is a faith component to this. Clearly a faith component to this. From Genesis, there is a faith component as to what marriage is. It started at Genesis. And is that illegitimate? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Any more than someone from a secular point of view can come in and argue from some, philosophic fringe group that might be out there and bring their argument in. Fine, bring it in. See how persuasive it is in this dynamic marketplace of ideas. This is why it drives me crazy how I call the intolerance of the left. Remember Chuck Schumer talking about judges, and interviewing a judge, and he was concerned about their deeply held religious beliefs. Oh, so if you have shallowly held religious beliefs, you're okay. But if you have deeply held religious beliefs, somehow you can't be an arbiter of fact. That's absurd in its face. Our founder said that we got along, and the reason we do get along is because we do bring everything in, and we welcome it. And so, yes, I will bring my faith claims into the public square. I will bring my reason claims into the public square, and I will talk about them, just as I hope and expect everybody else to do the same. And that is a healthy dialogue in America, and is exactly what our founders intended.
I think we're out of time, Senator.
I've got the reason we're out of time, just so you all know, I have to do a TV show tonight. I'm doing a Greta Van Susteren show, so I've got to get to a location where there's a remote truck, and that's not here. So, so I've got to go. Hopefully, I certainly enjoyed the dialogue. I appreciate everybody coming out, and this was a hot room, and you guys were really cute.